Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. It's Lane here with MetaShackle. Today we're just going to be going over a couple charts really quick just to kind of see where we're at and see how things have been going since the last video release. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into the charts. Use the coupon code 1776 for the entire month of July to get 25% off your first month of my Master Tier memberships on Patreon. I'll see you there. So taking a look here at the XRP Daily Chart, you can see that we made this move off of the bottom here on January 22nd, moving back upwards into the Gaussian channel. Today we had a bit of a rally, but we have also been rejected off of this bearish order block right here for the second time, which makes it seem very likely that we could see a rejection off of this 50% mark within the Gaussian channel. And of course, the last time this occurred, same thing that we see right here. Gaussian channel turned red, price came down, moved back up, got rejected off the 50% line. And if you look here, we have the exact same thing. Gaussian channel turned red, price moved up, we came down, got rejected off the 50% line. This is the same area that I was talking about in my last video. Once price was rejected off of this area, there was a slight retest here, and then we came down and actually set the pattern low in April on April 7th, coming down here to right around that $1.61 level. We very well could see the same thing here, which is what I've been expecting with all the bullish news surrounding Ripple and everybody becoming incredibly bullish and using terms like lock in, for example. This would be the perfect time to bring the price down and to crush the heck out of retail right before we see the real move. So if we do get rejected here, the most likely place we would go would be right down here off of the bottom of this strong bullish divergence which is formed on the daily chart, which could bring us right into that area of about $1.80, right within this bullish order block. As you can see here, there's still a lot of room on the stochastic for price to come back down. Last time this happened here, the exact same formation occurred within the stochastic, coming up, getting rejected, then coming back down into the lower ranges. And it looks like we may be setting up for that exact same thing for a second time now, which would be the correlation off of this drop that I just discussed compared to the drop where we're at right now. Now, if this area doesn't hold down here on this strong bullish divergence, there's only one other option, and that's to come down here to this bullish order block, which could be anywhere from about that $1.50 range to down at about $1.42. This area up here in the 180s is much more likely to hold and to act as an area of support for that liquidity draw. But if it doesn't hold, sweeping this low would become very likely, as in doing so, it would clear out all of the remaining sell-side liquidity from this entire pattern. At that point, once we saw reversal, that's when I would expect to see this bull run moving up and continuing to the upside, perhaps setting a new all-time high. But until that lower liquidity has been cleared out, at least in this range here, I still don't think we're going to see this bull run. Now switching over to the 4-hour chart, you can see that we had this fake out right here on the 30th coming up, pushing down. Lots of people got wrecked right here. I was reading a ton of posts on X and even a couple of the Moon Boys on YouTube who all chased this big green candle coming up here and then subsequently got liquidated when price came down, sweeping the lows of this accumulation pattern. In the Master Tier chat on my Patreon, as this was moving up, a lot of people were getting bullish, and I flat out called it and said that it was just setting up a trap, and that's exactly what we ended up seeing. On this move that we saw today, we ended up moving up here and getting rejected right off of the bottom of this bearish order block. I keep reading on X, everybody's super bullish and saying we're going to the moon tomorrow, but overall, when you actually look at the charts here, we're continuing to set lower highs and lower lows. We are still in a downtrend. We are not in an uptrend. And getting rejected in this area, the most likely spot is going to be to come down to lower levels to gather sell-side liquidity. I'm not in the camp that believes that we are going to break out to the upside until after we at least come down here. Also in the last video, when I talked about the divergence between the DXY, which is the US dollar index, and the price of XRP, you can see here that when we moved to that up move here on XRP, price actually pushed down, diverging within the Dixie. They actually correlated a little bit on this move up here, as you can see, but once this big green candle started in XRP just a few hours ago, the Dixie actually turned around and went the opposite direction. So it is diverging once again. So we're having these periods of time where the dollar is diverging, but at the same time moving with XRP. And like I said in my last video, I believe that if we see a turnaround in the dollar in this area, moving upwards, that we could see the price of XRP pushing down. So if we get a big move in the dollar, because there's a lot of reasons why the dollar would come up at this point. We have a volume imbalance sitting right here at about that 97 level. We have a gap here on the 4-hour chart centered at about 97.6. We have a gap on the 4-hour chart right here at about 98.23. And above all of this, we have a volume imbalance trading way up here at about $1.03 that needs to be filled. So there's a lot of potential for the price to move up to fill these gaps and these volume imbalances, and at least coming up and retesting this lower trend line right here. And in that push moving up this far, that's about all it would take to push XRP down into these lower ranges here, and if it goes high enough, perhaps even down here, which, although not as likely as this, is still on the table and cannot be ruled out. Even though most of the people in the crypto community would rather just completely ignore this and deny that potential possibility, which is why the 90% always gets wrecked. Now taking a look at the liquidation heat map, you can see that after this last fake out to the upside where everybody just got decimated, there was quite a bit of buy-side liquidity generated during this time up in this range. This pump that we saw today actually came down, took out the thickest band of the sell-side liquidity right here at about that 214.5 level, leaving a nice chunk of it still down here, with even more accumulating since then. Price moved up. We had this jump up today, taking out the thickest band of liquidity on the heat map, coming up and clearing out a big chunk of this. But looking at it on the 1 week chart, you can see that this is the thickest band of liquidity on this particular chart, down just below this previous low. If we bounce over to the 1 month chart, you can see that same area here, and this better displays that band buy-side liquidity that's right up here in that 230s to about that 240 range that I talked about a few videos ago. Although it's likely we won't clear this out until we get the breakout moving to much higher prices, as they will want to leave this buy-side liquidity sitting here as a part of liquidating and taking out the shorts, which forces them to buy back at higher prices, accelerating the buying in the market and driving the price even higher. So it essentially acts as rocket fuel. So the most likely scenario in my mind is that this will be left until the breakout comes. And with the sparse liquidity that we're displaying below here, if price does end up breaking to the downside, it's going to have to dig pretty deep down at least into this 180 area to find anything of value to make it worth the trip. And by taking a look at the 3 month chart, now you can really start to see that band of buy-side liquidity up here, even thicker, spreading all the way up here into the 250s. But to the downside, it's pretty sparse, down to about that 208 area, with the thickest band of liquidity resting right down here in that 180 area, coming down to where that fair value gap and that order block would be down here below, which is off the charts. So essentially, the only reason price would come down that low is to just clear out all of this last bit of liquidity that's remaining before moving to the upside. But by doing that, these little moves moving up like this, what this does is causes all the shorts to open their positions. So essentially, as price was dropping down to this area, you would have short positions opening up the entire way. So once we got down to the bottom and cleared out all of the sell-side liquidity, as I mentioned on my last video, once price reversed, we could essentially get a short squeeze all the way from wherever those lows ended up being, whether it's in the 180s or down to the 150 range, moving up here into this buy-side liquidity. And once we hit this band here, moving up into this 250 area, the move we would see right here as the shorts are getting liquidated, stop losses are being hit, and all the shorts are being forced to buy back shares at a higher price to close their positions, the move we would see out of this area would be absolutely explosive. So I certainly do hope that we end up coming down and getting that liquidity around that 150 area, because that would be the best moving forward for the continuation of the bull run. If we just come down here into the 80s, we'll still see an incredible move, but it won't be nearly as explosive as it would be if we cleared out all of the sell-side liquidity, because that will essentially negate this previous pattern and allow us to move higher. Without having to bother looking in the rear view mirror, we can simply just focus on what's right out in front of us, which in that case would be much higher prices and potentially even a new all-time high. So that's definitely the outcome that I'm hoping for, and that's the one that I also think is the most likely at this point.